Hello students, in this particular video I'm going to explain about wind energy or wind power, where we are going to discuss about the introduction of wind power and how exactly the wind is going to generate and what are the advantages of this wind energy and the demerits as well as problems associated with wind energy. Okay, wind energy or wind power. What is this wind power? Wind, before going to see about wind power, we will see what is wind. Wind results from an air motion. Okay, so when air in motion, wind will be resultant. So air in motion arises from a pressure gradient. Okay, so on a global basis, one primary forcing function causing surface winds from the poles towards the equator is convective circulation. Okay, so solar radiation heats the air near the equator, and this low density heated air is buoyed up. That means it will go up, okay, because of the density difference. At the surface it is displaced by cooler, more dense cooler air, which will be more dense, and high pressure air flowing from the poles. Okay, so in the upper atmosphere near the equator, the air thus tend to flow back toward the poles and away from the equator. Understood? So the net results is a global convective circulation with surface winds from the north to south in the northern hemisphere. So from this, it is clear that the wind is a byproduct of solar energy. Okay, so wind energy is amplification of the solar energy. Okay, so the energy in the wind is converted into rotary mechanical energy by the wind turbine. Okay, so see here, approximately 2% of the sun's energy reaching the earth is converted into wind energy. I hope it is clear. Approximately 2% of the sun's energy which is going to reach the earth is converted into wind energy. Okay, so the surface of I mentioned as I mentioned earlier, the surface of the earth heats and cools unevenly, which will creating the atmospheric pressure zones, and that makes airflow from high to low pressure areas. Okay, so wind power is a sustainable and it is renewable and has much smaller impact on the environment compared to the other fossil fuels like coal, diesel, petrol, etc. Okay, so here the main or basic principle behind this wind power is the wind energy, which is converted into mechanical energy at the rotor, by the wind blade, or we can say it as turbine shaft, and that mechanical and the rotary motion of the shaft is converted into electrical energy by generator, and then that energy is in turn utilized for the application. Okay, so this is the windmill. So you can able to see here, this is actually three blade windmill, and it is due to the velocity of wind, this blade is going to rotate, and it will rotate the shaft with rotary motion in rotary motion, and that shaft is converted that shaft rotary motion of the shaft is converted into uh, electrical energy by generator. Okay, so wind energy is the use of wind to provide mechanical power through wind turbines to run electric generators, and traditionally to do other work like milling, pumping, or any other application. Okay. Okay. So we come to know that wind are a natural phenomenon in the atmosphere, and to origin this wind, there are two forms of origins or two main factors. One is local winds. Okay, local winds, these are caused by unequal heating and cooling of ground surfaces and ocean like surfaces during day and night. Okay, so mainly heating and cooling of the atmosphere, which generates convection currents. That heating is caused by the absorption of solar energy on the earth's surface in the atmosphere. Okay, so next is global or planetary winds, which is which is caused by a daily rotation of earth around the around its polar axis, and unequal temperature between polar regions and equatorial regions. Okay, so the rotation of this earth with respect to atmosphere and its motion around the sun are the main cause. Because of these factors, alternate heating and cooling cycles occur, and the pressure will vary. This difference in pressure, which will cause when the air is which will cause the motion of the air. Okay, so in we should know that wind energy is one of America's greatest natural resources. The U.S. government could plan for installation of wind turbine generators with a total capacity of 1 gigawatt by early 1985, and windmills have been used for several centuries in countries like Netherlands, Denmark, etc., where high velocity wind is available in abundant quantity. Nearly 30,000 house mills capable of producing 100 megawatt, and 3,000 industrial windmills generating another 100 megawatt were operating in Denmark, especially at the turn of the century. Okay, but in India, the interest in the windmills was shown in the last 50s and early 60s. Okay, apart from importing a few from outside, new designs were developed in India, but it was not sustained. Okay, so it is only the in the last few years the development work is going in many institutions. An important reason for this is a lack of interest in wind energy, which must be that wind in India are relatively low and very appreciably with or which will vary with the seasons. So, but as per data quoted by some scientists, that for India the wind speed value lies between 5 kilometer per hour to 15 to 20 kilometer per hour. Okay, 5 to 20 in general. Okay, so these low and seasonal winds imply a high cost of exploitation of wind energy. So the calculation based on the performance of a typical windmill have indicated that a unit of energy derived from a windmill will be at least several times more expensive than energy derivable from electric distribution lines at the standard rates. Okay, so which provided such electrical energy is at all available at the windmill site. Okay, so we come to know that the potential of wind energy as a source of power is large and can be judged from the fact that energy available in the wind over the earth's surface is estimated about 1.6 into 10 to the power 10 to the power 7 kilowatt. Okay, so but in India, high wind speeds are obtainable in coastal areas of Saurashtra, western Rajasthan, and some parts of central India. Okay, so data quoted by scientists, as I mentioned earlier, for India, wind speed value lies between 5 kilometer per hour to 15 kilometer per hour. So such variable velocity of wind speed is available, especially which is not because of that we could not able to exploit wind energy. Okay. Next, we will see the problems associated with utilizing wind energy, are that the energy is in dilute form because of the conversion. Because of this, the conversion machines have to be necessarily large. Okay, it is in dilute form, and the availability of energy varies considerably over a day and within with the seasons. It will vary time to time. For this reason, some means of storage have to be devised if continuous supply of power is required. Okay, so this is one major problem exists in wind energy. A windmill converts the kinetic energy of moving air into mechanical energy, and that can be either used directly to run the machine or to run the generator to produce electricity. Okay, but to as we know, the wind velocity is very large velocity we can able to get when the height, when the vertical height is increased. Okay, so we you have to, to tap the wind energy, we have to install wind turbine at a very higher, very over the higher tower. Okay, so it is very difficult to handle. And apart from these problems, some environmental aspects that are so to be considered, where wind turbines are not uh, or impacting on environmental, and their operation is not entirely risk free. Okay, so some of the factors, some of the effects like electromagnetic interference, where interference with the TV and other electromagnetic communication system is a possibility with the wind turbines, as it is with very other tall structures. Okay, so TV interference is most likely in areas where there is a weak signal because of the distance from the transmitter, where existing reception is none too good due to the surrounding hills, and where the wind turbine is exposed in good position to receive and scatter these signals. Okay, that is one important aspect. And second one is second environment aspect is noise, where the noise produced by wind farms falls into two categories mainly, like mechanical noise, which is from gearbox, or generating equipment and some linkages. And the second type of noise is aerodynamic in nature, produced by the movement of turbine blades. Okay, so one component of later is broadband noise, which ranges up to several kilohertz, and other is a low frequency noise, which is of 15 to 20 hertz. Okay, so that is one major problem. And next important environmental aspect is visual effect. So, okay, so megawatts power generating wind turbines are having massive structures which would be quite visible over a wide area in some locations. So a variety characteristics such as color pattern, shape, rotational speed, and reflectance of blade materials can be adjusted to modify the visual effects of wind turbines, including the land. I can say what the landscape in which they are installed. Okay, and most important environmental aspect is bird life. Okay, because of this tall structure of this windmill, which represents a potential collision hazards to bird life. Okay, so many studies indicated that majority of migrating birds either fly at very higher altitudes or take avoiding the action. Okay, so it is likely to affect night flying birds more, and to be more of a problem with the smaller faster running machines rather than very large rotors. Okay, and most importantly, the risky work is one more environmental aspects, where the possibility of mishap is perhaps of greater concern to the public. Okay, the most serious failure from the safety point of view is the detachment of blade or blade fragment, which could be thrown a considerable distance and could damage people or their property. Okay, so a reliable control system to identify this faulty situation rapidly, and a braking system to bring the rotor safety to rest, which could be which could be proper measures to adopt to prevent such failures. Okay, so these are the some important problems associating with the utilization of wind power. Next, we will see the advantages or merits of a wind turbine, okay, or wind energy. So, very important advantage is the wind energy is free, inexhaustible, and does not need any transportation. Okay, so transportation in the sense the fuel or transportation. Okay, so it is very important that it is renewable. Okay, energy available for free of cost. Then windmills will be highly desirable and economical to the rural areas which are far from an existing grids. Okay, uh, and it is a very clean, pollution free. Okay, so also the wind power can be used in combination with the hydroelectric plants, such that water level in the reservoir can be maintained for longer periods. Okay, um, and apart from this, available in many offshore and onshore remote areas, cost is very effective and reliable. uh, okay, so these are the advantages, or we can say the merits of wind energy. When it comes to disadvantage of wind energy, we can list it is a low energy density, and wind power is not consistent and steady, which makes the complication in designing the whole plant. And the wind is a very hazard one. Okay, special and costly designs and controls are always required. The cost factor, which has restricted the development of wind power in large scale for feeding to the existing grid. It has low power coefficient, and careful survey is necessary for plant location. And it requires, apart from this, it requires energy storage batteries or standby diesel generators for supply of continuous power to load. And also the wind farms can be located only in vast open areas in locations of favorable wind. Such locations are generally away from load centers. Okay, so uh, does not meet the energy needs of large sites and industry. Okay, that is one more drawback we can highlight. And wind farms require flat vacant land free from forests. Okay, and noise, uh, risk. These are the some disadvantages as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so if we can able to cope up with limitations, we can able to trap wind energy for our energy needs. Next is the important factors has to be considered for site selection for a wind energy conversion system. Okay, or site selection for wind energy. One is very important factor we have to consider is high annual average wind speed. That we should know what is the annual average wind speed of that particular site in order before going to install wind plant. And second one is availability of wind curve at the proposed site. Okay, we should know how this wind will vary from time to time. So wind structure is also very important to know. These are all we can get from anemometry data, where we can able to get all these data, and we have to study thoroughly before going to install wind energy. And the altitude of the proposed site is very important because it decides about the wind direction and the particular height of the tower as well as the wind speed. Then local ecology is very important. We should know about local ecology. And then distance to road and rail. This is very important because it is very otherwise it involves the transportation cost. The transportation cost will be increased. Okay, if it is too far from road and rail. And then it should be near to load center, the point of application, that is very important one. Otherwise the transmission cost will be increased. And finally the favorable land cost, that is very important. And nature of ground is also very important to know before going to set up a wind power.